I want to I want to start with, I think, this really important series of questions that you got from Senator Kaine and to a certain extent Senator Van Hollen. So listen, I support the actions that the administration has taken because I believe that the United States is the guarantor of the freedom of navigation of international waters. We have an obligation to respond when United States interests are being attacked in commercial waters. But I do worry about the efficacy of a campaign of military strikes when we have seen very little evidence that airstrikes against the Houthis have restored deterrence over the course of a 7-year war with the Saudis, who conducted 23,000 airstrikes. I would note that 9 of the locations targeted by the United States and the UK strikes in January of this year were previously hit by 419 airstrikes in the Saudi-led air war between 2015 and 2022. So if 23,000 airstrikes by the Saudis weren't effective in moving the needle militarily and restoring deterrence, how can we be confident that our campaign of airstrikes is going to have a different outcome?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, we first of all have to understand who we're dealing with. We are dealing with an organization, now especially designated global terrorist organization, that simply thinks the rules don't apply to it. They are backed by the common denominator of a range of threats around the region by Iran, which provides weapons, which we've discussed, which provides intelligence, which provides targeting information, which provides financial support and training. And they, too, have an agenda, and that agenda includes to try to get the United States to depart the Middle East. And so these are the actors we're dealing with, and what our strikes are intended to demonstrate, first of all, is that we will continue to degrade and remove their capability if they continue to conduct these attacks. We will also try to interdict as much as we can and work with our partners on that. We will, of course, defend those who are transiting the waters, and that we will be prepared to take additional actions if there are obviously additional threats against us or against our people. We have demonstrated that very clearly in our responses to the tragic attack on Tower 22 in Jordan, and there was a very strong U.S. response in Iraq and Syria against IRGC-affiliated targets, individuals and facilities. And it has, until now, led to a quiet period since February 4th. We don't want to take that for granted. But it has demonstrated to Iran, again, one of the key enablers of the Houthis, that we are prepared to respond.
Right, but the extent of the military infrastructure inside Yemen, especially after 7 years of developing partnership with Iran, is extensive. And they have shown over the course of 7 years of significant airstrikes from the Saudis, sometimes with U.S. participation and help, the ability to very quickly rebuild their capacity. There's not a lot of evidence that during the period of these airstrikes we have had any effective deterrent. Do we actually believe there is a finite amount of infrastructure that can be hit and destroyed so as to change the reality inside the Red Sea through military operations alone?
We know that they still have capability. We sort of have a good sense of the numerator, what we have been able to eliminate and what they've used, and we don't fully know the denominator. That's obviously information we're working to develop, and obviously we're working to prevent that from expanding through interdictions, and we're working with partners to prevent other smuggling activities. I can't tell you that we know that there's a moment when they will decide that they've had enough. That is our intention, to make sure that they understand that if they continue to target us and our innocent mariners, that we will work with our partners to protect them, and that we will respond as appropriate to conduct these acts of self-defense.
Let me ask you one last question on this question of authorization. I do agree that it is a very troubling and creative interpretation of Article 2 authority to extend protection to partners. I agree with Senator Kaine that that is probably not a theory in good standing. But let me ask you if you believe that Article 2 authority gives you the ability to attack partners of those that are directing attacks at U.S. partners. I'm asking, of course, about Iran. Do you have existing Article 2 authority, having identified Iran as a participant in these Houthi attacks, to launch strikes against Iranian assets or Iran itself?
I'd really be overstepping to speculate on authorities that would be cited for strikes that have not taken place. I will say that the President's Article 2 authority was very much relevant in the response strikes in Iraq and Syria following the attack on Tower 22 in Jordan, in which 3 U.S. service members were killed. And I do think that has an impact. That has an impact in Iran's thinking, since the targets included IRGC-affiliated facilities, and it included individuals that IRGC was well known to support in their attacks on the United States. So I think they take that seriously, and they should take that seriously.
Senator Young.